Okay, so get ready because we're diving deep into the world of weight loss medications today, specifically Novo Nordisk's Wegovy and that price drop that just happened.
Yeah.
You wanted the scoop on how this once super pricey and really hard to get drug is becoming more accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've got all the details. We'll be looking at some really interesting articles like Novo lowers Wegovy price with direct-to-consumer program by Annalie Armstrong,
Right.
and an excerpt called Novo Nordisk's Wegovy direct-to-consumer launch.
Yeah.
And this isn't just about one drug, though, right?
No, it really isn't.
Yeah.
I think what's really interesting here is how Novo Nordisk's move could actually signal like a huge shift in the entire pharmaceutical world, like potentially changing how we all access healthcare in the future.
Exactly. Like it's a much bigger story than just this one drug.
Mm-hmm.
So let's unpack all of this, starting with probably the biggest news. Wegovy's price just totally plummeted. Like we're talking a drop from $1,349 a month down to $499 a month for those without insurance or who are underinsured.
Wow.
That's a big difference.
It is a huge difference, and I think this really dramatic price reduction is all because of Novo Nordisk's new program,
Oh, right.
NovoCare. It launched March 5th, 2025,
Okay.
and NovoCare is a direct-to-consumer model.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that you would order your medication directly from Novo Nordisk,
Okay.
and they would ship it right to your home. You bypass traditional pharmacies completely.
No more pharmacy visits. That's actually pretty convenient.
Yeah.
But what about those of us who need insurance to help cover Wegovy?
Right.
Does this price drop help at all in that situation?
Well, there's actually good news on that front, too.
Yeah.
Novo Nordisk has said that they eventually plan to align the price of Wegovy at traditional pharmacies with the NovoCare savings.
No.
So even if you are using insurance, you might see some relief on your copays sometime soon.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Now, some people might say that Novo Nordisk just had a sudden change of heart and decided to be, everyone's best friend.
Right.
But I think there's more to this story. Don't you remember back in January of 2024 when Eli Lilly, one of their competitors, launched their own direct-to-consumer program?
Oh, yeah, Lilly Direct.
Lilly Direct, exactly. And they were offering a 50% discount on Zepbound, which is their weight loss drug.
Yeah, it's very likely that Novo Nordisk is actually responding to that pressure from Eli Lilly, especially if they were starting to see patients switch over to Zepbound because of the lower price.
Right.
Regaining market share is a pretty powerful motivator.
For sure. And it's interesting because this whole direct-to-consumer approach, it's not just happening with weight loss drugs.
Right.
Like Pfizer, another huge player in pharmaceuticals, they launched their own program, Pfizer for All. And that provides direct access to vaccines and other medications.
Yeah.
So is this like a trend that's emerging here? Is this the future of how we're all going to be getting our medications?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
It's definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
I mean, the implications of that kind of shift are huge.
Yeah.
But I think before we go too far down that road, we should take a step back and look at another piece of this puzzle. Remember, Wegovy was on the FDA's shortage list for a while.
Yeah, it was super hard to find.
And that shortage was recently declared over. But during that time, compounding pharmacies stepped in
Oh, right.
to kind of fill the gap. They started to offer semaglutide, which is the active ingredient in Wegovy.
Yeah.
Which, kind of created another layer of complexity in all of this.
I'm guessing that Novo Nordisk was not exactly happy about that.
No, not really. They've been very vocal about their concerns with the safety and authenticity of compounded semaglutide. I mean, after all, they have a big incentive to make sure that patients are getting that FDA-approved Wegovy from their own controlled sources.
Right.
It's about quality control, definitely, but it's also about maintaining control over their product and their market share.
Yeah, and that tension really comes to a head with that lawsuit that's currently happening, right?
Oh, yeah?
Compounding pharmacies are actually suing the FDA for saying that the Wegovy shortage is over. It's kind of like a David versus Goliath situation.
It really is. It highlights that clash between, smaller compounding pharmacies and then these huge pharmaceutical giants.
Right, and it makes you wonder, what are Novo Nordisk's real motives here with this price drop and this whole launch of NovoCare? Are they really just trying to be helpful? Or is there something else, something more strategic going on?
That's a good question.
Yeah. So why the sudden, shift to being everyone's best friend? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think competition is definitely part of it, like we talked about. Keeping up with Eli Lilly and winning back some of that market share is a big motivator for sure. But there are other things going on, too.
Okay. Like what?
Well, there's been a lot of public pressure, especially from Congress, about how expensive Wegovy is.
Oh, right.
So this move could be a way to address those concerns and, be like, hey, look, we're making it more affordable.
Yeah.
It's good PR.
Good PR never hurts.
Right. But then there's also the issue of drug price negotiations.
Right.
Under the Inflation Reduction Act.
Mm-hmm.
Wegovy is actually being considered for those negotiations right now. So this whole thing from Novo Nordisk could be a strategic move to, kind of try and influence that process.
Oh, so they're trying to get ahead of it and maybe lower the price themselves before the government forces them to?
Exactly. It's a pretty smart move.
That's pretty clever.
And then there's also the element of control. By launching NovoCare, they're basically cutting out the compounding pharmacies altogether.
Oh, right.
They're making sure that patients are getting their FDA-approved Wegovy directly from the source.
So it's a bit of a power move then.
Yeah, you could say that they're taking back control of their product, their supply chain, and, ultimately their market.
It's fascinating. So we've got competition, public pressure, potential government intervention, and this desire for control all mixed up in this story.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot to unpack. But I think the big question is, what does this mean for the future of healthcare? Could this be the beginning of some huge shift?
Yeah, that's what we need to look into.
We'll dig deeper into that in part 2 with this deep dive.
Sounds good. I think this move by Novo Nordisk could really have ripple effects through the whole pharmaceutical industry.
Okay, so walk me through that. What kind of impact are we talking here?
Well, for starters, we could see more competition between all the drug manufacturers.
Okay.
They might start trying to offer more affordable medications.
Mm-hmm.
If Novo Nordisk can do it, why not everyone else?
Right.
This could even lead to a price war, which would be a good thing for patients.
Yeah, especially with the, rising cost of healthcare these days. That would be huge for patients.
Definitely, especially those people who have been priced out of these medications in the past or haven't had insurance coverage for them.
Right, exactly.
This direct-to-consumer model could make those treatments way more accessible for those people. It's like opening a door that was closed before.
It's like cutting out the middleman could really change things. And think about this. This shift toward direct-to-consumer healthcare could really empower patients. It could give them more control over their own healthcare choices.
Right.
Instead of going through all the hoops with doctor's appointments and insurance approvals and pharmacy visits, you could just order your medication directly and have it delivered right to your door. It's so convenient.
That's true. But wouldn't that also place a lot more responsibility on people to make informed decisions about their healthcare?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not everyone has the knowledge to know what's best for them.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
It raises some interesting questions about the roles of patients and healthcare providers in this new system. Will we see more telehealth consultations?
Oh, interesting.
Will patients be more proactive in their own care by researching treatments and advocating for their needs? It's fascinating to think about. It really is. It's like we're entering a whole new era of healthcare. But with any big change, there are bound to be some bumps in the road, right?
Well, for sure.
What are some of the potential downsides or challenges that you think we might see along the way?
Well, one concern is that this could make existing inequalities in healthcare even worse.
Oh, how so?
Well, the people who have the resources and knowledge to navigate this new system, they'll probably benefit the most.
Mm-hmm.
But other people might get left behind. We need to make sure that everyone has equal access to these advancements.
It's almost like a new digital divide, but in healthcare?
Exactly. And then there's the whole issue of profit. Pharmaceutical companies are businesses, they need to make money.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great that Novo Nordisk is lowering the price, but we have to remember that this is still a for-profit thing.
Right.
It's tricky trying to find that balance between making medications affordable and making sure that the companies that make them can stay afloat.
It's a tough situation, for sure. I think this whole deep dive has really opened my eyes to the potential benefits of this direct-to-consumer approach, but also to the, possible problems. It's definitely something that we need to be talking about and thinking about carefully.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's going to keep changing, and we need to stay informed and be part of the conversation.
For sure. So out of everything that we've talked about, what stands out to you as the most significant thing in this whole situation?
What I find the most interesting is how the power dynamic might be shifting. We're seeing patients potentially gain more control over their healthcare decisions, which is great, but that also comes with more responsibility.
It's like a two-sided coin.
Yeah, exactly.
You're in charge of your own choices, but you need to have the right information to make good ones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like patients are being asked to really step up and take charge of their own health. You need to do your research and advocate for yourself.
Yeah, and I think this price drop with Wegovy, even though it's good news for individuals, it really brings some much bigger issues to light that have been around for a while.
You're talking about things like drug pricing regulation, access to healthcare.
Exactly.
Right.
Those are the things that are being brought to the forefront because of what Novo Nordisk is doing.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's a really important moment that could change the whole healthcare system.
So as we're wrapping up this part of our deep dive, I have a question for you and our listeners.
Okay.
Do you think other companies will follow suit? And what will happen to the healthcare system in the long term because of this direct-to-consumer trend?
Those are the questions we need to be thinking about. This is an exciting but also uncertain time for healthcare.
I'm really curious to see what happens next. But before we get too far ahead, let's explore some of those potential scenarios and what they might mean in part 3 of our deep dive. Okay, so let's keep going with this deep dive into the future of healthcare. It's like we're watching dominoes fall, you know?
Yeah, it really is like one company makes a big change and everyone else has to try to keep up.
And this isn't just about companies making money, right? This is about real people, patients, doctors, everyone in the healthcare system.
Absolutely. So let's try to imagine what this future might look like. What if most medications were available through these direct-to-consumer platforms?
Okay.
What would happen to all the regular pharmacies?
It's kind of hard to picture, isn't it? No more stopping by the drugstore to pick up your pills. Everything comes right to your mailbox.
Exactly.
Right.
And that makes me think, what about doctors in all of this? Would they still be the ones prescribing things?
That's a really good question
Mhm.
because doctors are the ones with all the knowledge, right? They know your history and what's best for you.
Right. But this new system is all about patients being more in charge.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we'll see more appointments online like telehealth
Right.
and patients and doctors making decisions together more.
So you could talk to your doctor online, talk about your options, and then order your meds right from those websites.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about convenience and letting patients make more choices about their own health.
And what about all the technology, Like, how do you see AI and stuff like data analysis fitting into this whole thing?
Oh, those are huge.
Yeah.
AI could really change everything.
Yeah.
Imagine having a treatment plan made just for you,
Wow.
or your phone reminding you to take your meds, or even predicting health problems before they happen.
It's like having a health robot watching over you all the time.
Exactly. And all that data from these websites could help with making new drugs, finding patterns in diseases, and basically just making healthcare better for everyone.
That sounds amazing. But I know there's always another side to these things, right?
Of course.
What are some of the downsides or risks that we need to watch out for?
Well, one big one is privacy.
Mm.
With all this information being collected,
Right.
we have to make sure it's protected.
Yeah, nobody wants to see their medical records out in the open.
Exactly. And then there's the problem of bias in those AI algorithms.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
They're only as good as the information they learn from. So if that information is biased, it could lead to unfair decisions for some people.
So we have to be really careful about how we use these algorithms.
Exactly. We have to make sure they're fair and don't make things worse for certain groups.
Mm-hmm.
And we also can't forget about the digital divide.
Right.
Not everybody has access to the internet or knows how to use it well.
So it's like solving one problem, but maybe creating new ones at the same time?
It's complicated. There are so many possibilities, but also so many things that could go wrong. We need to talk about all of this openly and honestly and work together to make healthcare better for everyone.
I totally agree. This deep dive has really been eye-opening. We've talked about the good and the bad of this whole direct-to-consumer thing and what it could mean for the future of healthcare.
It's been great talking about all this with you.
Yeah, it really has. And to everyone listening, we hope this is giving you some things to think about. Remember, knowledge is power. Stay informed, stay curious, and keep talking about these things because they're shaping our future.
That's a great way to put it. Thanks for joining us, everyone.